Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, Babbling Books. I'm Elaine, and if it's your first time here, welcome. So this is my January wrap-up. I read 20 books in January. 18 of them were actually on audio, and the other 2 I read on my Kindle. This video is going up kind of late. February has been a tough and rocky month. So today is the first day I even felt capable of putting the effort into making a video. But it looks like the month is going up, that it's getting better. So anyway, back to what I read in January. So 2 books on I read on my Kindle, and the other 18 I listened to on audio. One was the audio was a standalone. The other books all belong to 2 separate series. I am not going to go into detail about each book in the series, just the general overview to avoid spoilers. So the first book I read on my Kindle was actually a novella called The Governess Affair by Courtney Milan. This is point 5 in the Brother Sinister series. I loved this. So it takes place in Victorian times, and a woman who was a governess has found herself in dire straits, and she is determined to be compensated for what has happened to her. So she sits outside the Duke's home on a bench, and she doesn't say much or do anything, but her mere presence is sort of like a reminder to the Duke that she's not going to go away. So the Duke sends his man of business to deal with her. And this man of business is a very, what would the word be? He's not necessarily brutal or cruel, but he does what is necessary to do his job. And it sort of sets off a battle of wills between him and the governess, that he's going to get her to go away, and she's not going to go away. So it's very much a cat and mouse game, one-upmanship. And it's the story of the man of business and the governess falling in love. I really, really enjoyed this. I want to read the rest of the series, because if it's anything like the novella, it's going to be very, very good. So after that, I read How to Lose a Duke in 10 Days by Kerrigan Bryne. Is that how you say her name? I wrote it down. Yes. So I didn't enjoy this very much. I thought the author was incredibly wordy. The conversations between characters were just kind of odd. There was a lot of meandering, a lot of internal monologues, which aren't necessarily bad, but I found myself as I was reading it thinking, oh my God, get to the point. When is something going to happen? And I ended up giving it a 3-star rating, which is what most books get when I just think they're okay. And I don't remember anything about this book other than that. And then after that, I listened to Mary Jane by Jessica Blau on audio. Absolutely loved this. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I thought the audio was fantastic. So this is a coming-of-age story about a girl named Mary Jane. She's a teenager in the 60s. So Mary Jane comes from a pretty conservative household. Go to church every Sunday. It's the mom's job to cook. There's a right way to do things and a wrong way. Be a lady. Conduct yourself appropriately. Just very sort of a rigid household. And I was impressed that the author was able to portray Mary Jane's parents in the manner that she did, because there's sort of an overwhelming feeling that Mary Jane is living in an oppressive household, but it is not abusive, which you sort of, at least I did as I was reading it. I kept sort of waiting for something drastic with her parents, like locking her in her room for days on end without food, or something just sort of over the top. But the author seems to have handled that in a very realistic manner. She avoided making the parents abusive, but made them very much oppressive. So anyway, so Mary Jane takes a job as a nanny over the summer for the 5-year-old daughter of a doctor and his wife. So come to find out, the doctor is actually a psychiatrist. So Mary Jane comes to their home to begin this job, and she's just absolutely blown away. Like, the house is just a complete disaster. Not necessarily dirty, but there's no organization. There's books and papers and puzzles and just random stuff on top of the stove. The mother doesn't cook. And Mary Jane how does the family eat if the mom doesn't cook? And they're very open about conversations about sex and nudity and drugs and just very hippie-esque. And as the book progresses, relatively early on in the book, the psychiatrist has one of his patients who is a rock star, and his wife, who is a famous actress, come stay in their home over the summer to help the rock star overcome his drug addiction. So this entire new world is opened up to Mary Jane, where people talk about things, where sex is not taboo, where nudity is not necessarily sexual, that it's no big deal. And she just loves them. And I will say the only trigger warning in this book is drug abuse. And it's not, it's very slight. Like, it's happening, but there's nothing incredibly, excessive. And I also want to point out that as I was reading this book, I was very concerned that there was going to be an adult who took advantage of Mary Jane's naivety and ended up preying on her. I don't want to do a spoiler, but I do just want to let you know that that was not a concern, and that Mary Jane's safety is never compromised in this story. So that is Mary Jane by Jessica Blau. Highly recommended. It's a slow burn. It's a character study. So if those are things you enjoy, I very much recommend this. After that, I listened to books 1, 2, and 3 of the Iron Druid series by Hearne. So these are, this is an urban fantasy series. I read it, 10 years ago, something like that. It was a long time. And you have a man who is a druid, and you find out that he is like over 1,000 years old, and he currently owns a used bookstore and sort of like an herbalist shop where he makes specialty teas that are essentially, you could just say they're magic. And he has a dog named Oberon, who's an Irish wolfhound, and Atticus is the druid. Atticus and Oberon can communicate to each other telepathically. It is hilarious and so heartwarming. I love Oberon. He is by far the best character in the entire series. So as a druid, he worships pagan gods. So there are, all of the gods exist in this book. Jesus makes an appearance. The Greek and Roman gods, the Celtic gods, they're all around. A lot of action, relatively fast paced. They're actually pretty short too. I want to say most of the audiobooks are anywhere between 7 to 8 hours. So very, very quick reads. But they're highly entertaining, and they're sort of like grown-up Percy Jackson books. So I do recommend these. They're very good. And there are also werewolves and vampires. And the main plot basically is that Atticus has been on the run from this particular god for hundreds of years. And in the first book, that sort of comes to a head. I do recommend these. They're fun. And then after that, I listened to books 1 through 14 of the Patricia Briggs series, or the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. I've talked about these before, so I'm going to be very fast. Mercy Thompson is a coyote shapeshifter. She's Native American. She was raised with werewolves. She left that area, moved to a new area, And her next door neighbor is the alpha of a werewolf pack in Washington. So Mercy is a VW mechanic. Her boss is a ancient fae. And one of her customers is a vampire who has a Scooby-Doo van that she works on. It's a VW bus. And like I said, her next door neighbor is a werewolf. And, you know, Coyote, the Native American coyote, is chaos. So she constantly finds herself embroiled in some sort of situation because of her friendships with the fae, with the werewolves, with the vampires. When the book series starts, the fae have come out. Humans know that faes exist. And one of Mercy's boss is one of the fae who has come out to the world. So yeah, very interesting. There's a lot of really interesting mythology in this series that focuses more towards the Native American aspect rather than the more common Greek, Roman, or Celtic. So I did enjoy that. I like Mercy. She is smart, loyal, funny, sneaky, strong. She's a wonderful character. My second favorite character actually is from a spinoff of this series, but he makes an appearance in Mercy's books as well. I will say with this series, trigger warning, sexual assault. It is not incredibly detailed, but it is something that happens within this series. There is, of course, when you're dealing with werewolves and vampires and fae and stuff, there is violence. But I want to say the biggest trigger warning would be sexual assault and PTSD. So yeah, that's it. So that's what I read in January. I'm currently reading Love, Pamela by Pamela Anderson, her memoir. I'm probably about a third of a way through it. I have about 50 pages left of a military history I'm reading about the Middle East. And I am also listening to the Anita Blake series by Laurel K. Hamilton. That's another series that I read a long time ago, 14, 15 years ago. I want to say 4 books have come out since I quit reading the series. So I'm going to try to see how far I can make it, because last time I got tired of the series. So we'll see how far I make it. So yeah, that's it. So I hope everyone has a great Valentine's Day and good things to read. Feel free to drop some urban fantasy recommendations. I feel like I've read them all. So I'm always looking for new ones. And that's it. So I'll see you guys next month. Bye.